Hey everyone, and welcome back. So you know those weight loss drugs everyone's talking about?
Right.
Ozempic and Wegovy.
Mounjaro, yeah.
They're making headlines, but honestly, it's hard to know what to believe.
Yeah, it's so much hyped.
So we're going to do a deep dive today and really try to understand what these drugs actually do, how they work, and, what you need to know about how effective they are and the risks.
Yeah, for sure.
So we've got a lot of research articles and studies that we're going to unpack. So let's just get started.
So I think it's really fascinating how these medications were initially designed for people with type 2 diabetes, but they've become like a global phenomenon for weight loss.
It's a huge shift.
Huge.
So like Ozempic, for example, was initially meant for people with type 2 diabetes, but then people started noticing that they were losing weight while they were on it.
Yeah.
And then came Wegovy, which is essentially a higher dose of the same active ingredient.
Semaglutide. But it was specifically formulated and FDA approved for weight loss in people without diabetes.
Exactly.
And then now we have Mounjaro.
Yes.
Which is similar, but it's even more powerful because it targets 2 hormones instead of just 1.
Yeah.
And that can lead to like faster, more substantial weight loss.
Yeah.
2 hormones instead of 1.
2 hormones.
Okay, I need you to break that down for me. Like, why is that such a big deal?
Yeah. So both Ozempic and Wegovy use semaglutide, which mimics a naturally occurring hormone called GLP-1. And this hormone helps to regulate appetite and blood sugar.
Okay.
So by mimicking GLP-1, these drugs essentially trick your body into feeling full, so you have reduced cravings, and then ultimately weight loss.
So it's like hitting the off switch on those hunger pangs?
Yes.
I can see why people are excited about this.
It makes a lot of sense.
It makes a lot of sense. And these drugs also slow down digestion and help to improve insulin sensitivity, which is important for both diabetes management and weight loss. Now, Mounjaro goes a step further by targeting another hormone called GIP in addition to GLP-1.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So what's the advantage of targeting 2 hormones?
Think of it this way. If targeting 1 hormone is like turning down the volume on your hunger signals, targeting 2 is like hitting the mute button.
Okay.
So this dual action approach can lead to more significant weight loss and potentially address different aspects of metabolic health.
Okay, that makes sense. So what kind of results are we talking about here? Are we talking like dropping a dress size, or is it more significant?
The results have been pretty remarkable.
Okay.
Studies show that people on Ozempic lose an average of 15 to 27 pounds in 6 months.
Wow.
And Wegovy users have reported shedding even more, somewhere between 35 to 52 pounds in a year.
Oh, wow, that's significant.
Yeah.
What about Mounjaro? I've heard whispers that the weight loss is even more extreme.
You heard right. With Mounjaro, we're seeing reports of people losing up to 22.5% of their body weight in just over a year.
Okay, now that's a game changer.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's a but coming here if it sounds too good to be true.
You're right to be cautious. While these drugs offer a promising new approach to weight loss, they do come with potential downsides.
Okay, let's get into it. What are the risks that we need to be aware of?
One of the most common, especially early on, are gastrointestinal issues, like nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea.
It's not exactly the kind of side effects you want to talk about at a dinner party.
Definitely not.
No.
And there can be more serious concerns, too. One is delayed gastric emptying, which basically means your stomach takes longer to empty, and this can cause bloating discomfort and even in some cases gastrointestinal obstructions.
Well, that sounds pretty unpleasant.
Yeah.
Are there other red flags that people should be aware of?
There's also an FDA black box warning, the most serious type of warning, regarding thyroid tumors. This warning applies to all drugs in this class, not just Ozempic and Wegovy.
So even if the risk is statistically low, it's serious enough for the FDA to issue a warning.
Exactly. It's crucial to have an open and honest conversation with your doctor about your individual risk factors before starting any of these medications, and you should report any unusual symptoms immediately.
This is all starting to sound a bit like a roller coaster. Incredible highs, but some potentially scary lows. What happens when people decide to stop taking these medications? Do they keep the weight off?
That's a critical question. Unfortunately, there's a real possibility of what's called the rebound effect, where people regain the weight they lost once they stop taking the medication.
So it's not a permanent solution?
Not necessarily. These medications are powerful tools for weight loss, but they're not a magic bullet.
Okay.
They need to be part of a comprehensive approach. That includes sustainable lifestyle changes like diet and exercise.
So it's not just about popping a pill and calling it a day.
Absolutely not. It's about making lasting changes to your habits and behaviors. to support long-term weight management and overall health.
So taking these drugs without also adopting a healthier lifestyle, you're potentially setting yourself up for disappointment.
That's a very real concern. These medications can jumpstart the weight loss process, but they're most effective when combined with a holistic approach to health.
It sounds like there's a lot to consider
Yeah.
before jumping on the weight loss drug bandwagon. So we've talked about the incredible results, the potential risks, the importance of lifestyle changes. Is there anything else we should be thinking about?
Yes. There's another layer to this conversation that we need to address.
Okay, now things are getting really interesting, and that's the ethical implications of the widespread use of these drugs.
Exactly.
Let's dive into that in part 2.
These weight loss drugs are in such high demand.
Yeah.
And it's driven partly by those celebrity endorsements and social media trends we talked about, that we're seeing global shortages.
Yeah, I've been hearing about that.
Yeah.
It's making it really tough for people with diabetes who rely on these medications to manage their condition to get their prescriptions filled.
Exactly. And that raises the question, should access be prioritized for people with life-threatening conditions?
That's a tough one. On the one hand, denying someone a tool that could improve their health, regardless of the reason, just feels wrong.
Right.
But then again, if the supply is limited, shouldn't those with the most urgent medical need be at the front of the line?
It's a really complex issue with no easy answers.
Yeah.
Some people argue that using these drugs for what they consider vanity weight loss is irresponsible, especially when it affects those who need them for their health. Others believe that obesity itself is a serious health condition, and these drugs offer a potential solution for millions battling weight-related issues.
Yeah, it sounds like there are strong arguments on both sides. Where do you land on this?
I believe everyone deserves access to safe and effective treatments, regardless of their condition. However, we also need to acknowledge the potential consequences of widespread use, especially when resources are limited.
So it's about finding a balance, making sure those with the most urgent need aren't left behind, but also recognizing that obesity is a complex issue that deserves attention and treatment.
Exactly, and it highlights a crucial point. These drugs, while promising, are not a quick fix.
Right. We keep coming back to that.
Wait,
No magic bullets.
No magic bullets.
It's about a holistic approach to health.
Precisely, and that brings us to a topic that often gets overlooked in the excitement surrounding these new drugs.
Okay.
The potential for some pretty serious side effects.
Okay, I think we're ready to go a little deeper down the rabbit hole here. What are some of the more serious risks people should be aware of?
Well, one of the most concerning is the potential for damage to the digestive system. Long-term use of these drugs can lead to problems like bowel obstructions or even erosion of the intestinal tissue.
Wow, those sound incredibly serious.
They are. And there's also the risk of chronic malnutrition. Now, it might seem counterintuitive since these drugs make you eat less, but they also change how your body processes food and absorbs nutrients. And over time, this can result in deficiencies in essential vitamins and minerals.
So even though you're losing weight, you might not be getting the nutrients you need to stay healthy.
Exactly. And we've already talked about the FDA black box warning for thyroid cancer, but it's worth emphasizing how critical it is to have an open and honest conversation with your doctor about that risk before starting these medications.
It's a sobering reminder that even with medications that show incredible promise, there are always potential downsides.
Always.
And we need to be aware of those risks, not just get caught up in the excitement.
Absolutely. And there are a few other side effects that, while not necessarily life-threatening, are pretty disturbing to think about.
Okay, you've piqued my curiosity. Let's hear it.
Well, because these drugs slow down digestion so much, some people experience undigested food remaining in their stomach for extended periods. It's like having rotten food just sitting there.
Ugh, that's a mental image I could have done without.
I know. And then there's the potential for uneven fat loss, which can lead to what some users call melting face and pancake butt. Essentially, the face can take on a gaunt, hollowed-out appearance, while the buttocks can lose volume and appear flattened.
It's a stark reminder that these drugs, despite all the hype, can have unintended and sometimes really unpleasant consequences.
Precisely. And those are just a few of the potential side effects. There's also a risk of muscle loss, heart disease, infertility, hair loss, anxiety, depression, pancreatitis, gallbladder disease, dangerously low blood sugar levels, kidney failure, intestinal obstructions, something called gastroparesis.
Hold on. Gastroparesis, what's that?
It's basically a condition where the stomach muscles slow down or stop working, making it difficult for food to move from the stomach into the small intestine.
Yikes, that sounds awful.
And believe it or not, even tooth loss is a potential side effect. The frequent vomiting and changes in oral health associated with malnutrition can really damage your teeth.
Okay, I think I'm officially spooked.
It's understandable, it's a lot to take in, but the bottom line is this. These drugs, while potentially effective, are not without risks. It's essential to weigh the potential benefits against the possible downsides, and to have a thorough conversation with your doctor about your individual risk factors.
It sounds like knowledge is power, especially when it comes to these medications.
I couldn't agree more.
So we've talked about the potential benefits and risks, the ethical considerations, the importance of lifestyle changes. It's a lot to process. But I'm curious, is there a cultural side to this story as well?
There is the popularity of these drugs,
Yeah.
especially Ozempic and Wegovy has exploded in recent years, fueled in part by those celebrity endorsements and social media trends we mentioned earlier.
Yeah, it seems like everyone's talking about them, from Hollywood stars to everyday folks on TikTok.
Right. It's created a sort of Ozempic craze, with people seeking these drugs out even if they don't necessarily need them or haven't fully considered the risks.
It's almost like it's become a fashion statement.
In a way, yes. And this is where the conversation gets really interesting, because it raises questions about our society's obsession with thinness, our quick fix mentality, and the influence of social media on our health choices.
It's like we're bombarded with images of so-called perfect bodies and promises of effortless weight loss, that we've lost sight of what real health looks like.
And the pharmaceutical industry is capitalizing on this. They're marketing these drugs directly to consumers, creating a demand that's driving up prices and contributing to those shortages we talked about earlier.
So it's not just about individual choices. It's about the larger systems and influences that shape those choices.
Exactly. And that's where critical thinking comes in. We need to step back and ask ourselves, are these drugs really the solution to our weight problems? Or are they just a Band-Aid masking deeper issues?
So instead of just focusing on treating the symptoms, we need to address the root causes.
Precisely. And that brings us to an important question. If these drugs aren't the perfect solution, what other options are out there for people who want to lose weight and improve their health?
That's what I'm really curious about. What are the alternatives to this quick fix mentality? Let's dive into that in part 3. All right, so we've talked about the pros and cons of these new weight loss drugs, but what about the alternatives? If someone decides these medications aren't right for them, what other options are out there?
Well, I think it's exciting because we're not just looking for like another pill to solve the problem. This is about like shifting our entire perspective on weight loss and health.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What kind of shift are we talking about here?
I think for so long, we've been led to believe that weight loss is all about willpower, strict diets, grueling workouts. But what if we imagine like a different approach, one that focuses on like nourishing your body, listening to your internal cues, finding joy in movement?
Okay, that definitely sounds more appealing than my usual vision of weight loss.
Yeah.
Which honestly often feels more like punishment than progress.
Right. And this isn't just like wishful thinking. There's science backing this approach.
Okay, I'm all ears. Tell me more about the science-backed approach that doesn't feel like a constant battle.
So one key element is focusing on like sustainable and enjoyable lifestyle changes. So think about incorporating more whole, unprocessed foods into your diet, finding physical activities you genuinely enjoy, and prioritizing things like sleep and stress management.
So it's about making gradual changes that fit into your life,
Folks.
rather than trying to overhaul everything overnight.
Yes, it's about creating a lifestyle that nourishes your body and mind, not one that feels restrictive or like a constant struggle.
That makes a lot of sense. But what about those of us who struggle with the behavioral side of things? You know, breaking those bad habits, forming new ones, that can be tough.
That's where behavioral therapies can be incredibly helpful. Therapies like cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, can help you identify and change those negative thought patterns and behaviors that contribute to unhealthy eating habits.
So it's like rewiring your brain to have a healthier relationship with food and your body.
Precisely. And it's been proven to be very effective.
So you've got lifestyle changes, behavioral therapy. What other tools are out there?
Well, we're seeing some really cool advancements in technology that can play a role. There are wearable fitness trackers that help you monitor your activity levels, apps to help you keep track of what you're eating, and even virtual reality programs that can help you overcome cravings.
That's so cool.
It is.
I love how technology can support our health goals.
Yeah.
But do we know, like, for sure that these tech solutions actually work?
The research is still ongoing.
Okay.
But the early results are promising. These tools can be especially helpful for people who are motivated by data and feedback.
Yeah, I can see how that instant feedback loop can can be really powerful. It's like having a personal cheerleader in your pocket.
Exactly. And let's not forget about holistic practices like mindfulness, meditation, yoga, acupuncture. These practices focus on the connection between your mind and body, helping you tune in to your body's natural signals.
I'm so glad we're talking about this because I feel like it often gets overlooked in the weight loss conversation.
Yeah.
We can get so fixated on the number on the scale
Yeah.
that we forget about like our mental and emotional well-being.
Yeah, it's all interconnected. And when you start to address those underlying issues, often the weight starts to take care of itself.
It sounds like there's a whole world of options out there
There is.
beyond just medication. This holistic approach feels so much more balanced
Yeah.
and sustainable than the quick fix mentality we're often bombarded with.
Absolutely. And it's important to remember it's not about achieving some unattainable ideal of perfection. It's about making progress, finding what works for you, making those small changes over time that lead to big results.
It's a journey, not a destination, right?
Exactly. And it's a journey worth taking. Ultimately, it's not just about losing weight. It's about gaining health, vitality, and a sense of empowerment over your own body.
I love that. What a powerful way to reframe the conversation around weight and wellness.
It's about reclaiming your health and well-being on your own terms.
Well said. So, to wrap things up, we've learned that while these new weight loss drugs can be effective, they're not without risks. And more importantly, there are a wide range of alternative approaches out there that can help you achieve your health goals in a more holistic and sustainable way.
It's about finding what works for you, listening to your body, making choices that support your overall well-being.
This has been such an insightful deep dive. We encourage you to keep exploring these topics, keep learning, and keep asking questions.
Because knowledge is power. And when it comes to your health, you deserve to feel empowered.
As always, subscribe to our channel, like the video, and comment below. There are also some links in our description that you may find useful.